Now, you've been doing a fair bit of work now on using Python as a calculator, but now I want to get Python to do a little bit more and make some decisions. And it'll start using the ALU area of the processor. That's called the arithmetic logic unit, to make decisions. And logic is it's going to decide if a value entered is equal to something, equal to a value, or is greater than, or less than, or some other logical operation. You'll see those in a moment. When working through the workbook, again, investigate. First of all, it is, let's go try, then investigate, and then try and investigate, and just build your knowledge up. And make sure you read through these tips and instructions, because it builds up the technical terminology that you need to be aware of or need to know. Also, at the bottom of each slide, there's some instruction about what to do on that slide. Now, it's not just always a case of just have a read through and that's it. It might tell you to change some values and see what effect it has on the program. So make sure you read the instructions down at the bottom in the notes section. Right, so off we go to PyScripter. Just skip Control and A, delete. A couple of line spaces, doesn't change the program, but we'll just do that to make it easier to read. So wind speed equals, so I'm going to say it's wind speed or wind, we'll change the variable in fact actually, wind category it's going to be. Wind category, and we're going to decide that if wind cat is equal to 12, colon, so it's a colon, that's the double dot, next to the L key on the keyboard, on most keyboards, wind cat. If its wind category is 12, then we're going to say that this is a hurricane. Okay, so category 12 will give that. So let's just run that program. And there we are, it tells me it's a hurricane quite easily. But if I change wind category to 10, then it doesn't tell me anything at all. So I need to have an else in here as well, or an otherwise. So the structure of the if statement is if wind category is equal to 12. Now, the reason there's two equal signs here, and only one here, is one equals assigns a value. So wind cat will be set to equal 10. Two equals is a comparison. This is where the arithmetic logic unit compares. Is wind cat equal to 12? It doesn't change the value to 12, whereas that would. And obviously I don't want to change it. I want to compare it with the value 12. Is wind cat equal to 12? Well, it's not. So what I'm going to say is else print, I'll just say not a hurricane. So let's run that now. And obviously this is now going to give me not a hurricane. Note I'm testing it with values. So even if I put the value 13 in there, it's not a hurricane because it's not value 10. So now I'm going to put it back to 12. Let's make sure. So I'm fully testing it now. It still says hurricane. It doesn't come out with not a hurricane. So it's doing one or the other. If wind cat equals 12, print hurricane, else, etc. Right. So what I'm going to say, hurricanes are greater than 10. All right. So if wind category is greater than 10, that would be 11 or 12, then it's a hurricane. So let's put 11 in here this time. Run. And there we go, it's a hurricane. And if I change that to category 5, we now conjecture that, well, it shouldn't be a hurricane, so it'll come out as not a hurricane. Well, let's just check. And down here, it says not a hurricane, so that's great, so it's working. Now, there is one other bit we can do here. We can say elif wind cat is greater than 7. Print, and in this case we'll say it's a tropical storm as another category. Now the spacing does nothing, so I'll put a line space each time. That's just purely there for readability. If wind cat is greater than 10, then it's going to say a hurricane. If it's greater than 7, it's a tropical storm, else not a hurricane. So let's have a look here. If it's 11, it's going to say the word hurricane, which it does down here. Now if I change it to 8, now, oh, I should have made a point there. When it was 11, it says hurricane. It doesn't then say tropical storm as well, even though wind cat is greater than 7, because it's already been selected via this first statement. this first condition, it doesn't then go and see whether it fits the second statement, and this final null statement at the end of print not a hurricane. So it's decided it's in this, so it won't be select for the second time. Let's go and try this. 8. Now this time wind cap won't be greater than 10, but it will be greater than 7, and it won't print that bottom one out. So let's see if that comes out as tropical storm. And you can do as many elifs as you want in between. So put some other categories in there now, and obviously I'd change the value wind category to, let's put it as 4. Let's see, is it greater than 10, greater than 7, greater than 5? No. Greater than 3? Yes. So it'll come out as a gentle breeze. And there we are, it's doing its selection process, where the term selection comes from. Now, I'm going to take away a few of these because I don't want the if statement getting in the way here. Right, what I'm going to do is just put this as part of a function. So I'm going to define storm, send a parameter, wind cat, and colon. I'm now going to indent it. Now this is how the book does. Over here I have an indent block, so it'll indent the whole thing by highlighting. Down here I set. Now I'm hardwiring wind category in, and some of you do this, which is fine. I've got no issue with that. But just make sure when you do call, you put the parameter in there. Okay, so it's called storm category. So again, it's still going to work. Not a hurricane in this particular case because it's 4. One of the points I'm going to make though is that a hurricane can be factor 10 as well. So if I put a 10 in here at the moment, it still only prints out not a hurricane, and the reason is because it's not greater than 10. So if I want to do greater than or equal to, it's that, not the greater than or equal to sign that you would have seen in mathematics and so on with the bar underneath. So less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and this is equal to. So greater than or equal to. So this time now, you'll notice that hurricane for 10. Now, modified the program here. This time it's going to be checking to see if the month that I enter into a system, so month 8 for August, for example, or 12 for December, or 1 for January, I want to check whether the month entered is valid. So I'm going to stop them entering 13 and 14 and all those sort of months. Right, so I'm going to put 8 as a valid month. Valid just means it's checking that it's suitable, reasonable, or acceptable. So month equals 8. Month's check routine then accepts that as the variable MTH. MTH is greater than 10. Well, let's change this. Right, so if month is greater than or equal to, let's get rid of greater than or equal to. So its month is greater than 12, or, sorry, greater than or equal to 1, and MTH is less than or equal to 12. Right, there we are. That's what I wanted to do. If month is greater than or equal to 1 and month is greater than, less than or equal to 12, so is it in that range? And if it is, then print it's an okay month, otherwise not a valid month. So let's go and run that. Is it okay for 8? Yes, it is. Let's try the ones on the extreme here. 12. 12's okay. I'm also going to try 1. Let's run that. And that's okay, and it's really for you to test out, but let's try some erroneous data that's going to give an error, and it says not a valid month, and the other way we'd have some values such as 0, and that's going to give the same. Okay, right, if I go back to the booklet very quickly, right at the very end it talks about, let me present that a moment, it talks about test tables. Now if I present it like this, it doesn't give the notes at the bottom, but in essence it's asking you to pick one of the problems that you've solved. Take a little while till you get to this, in fact. Then you pick the problem and what values are you using, what's your expectation, and does it actually pass that test? And this is what software developers use when working in teams to indicate what values work and what values don't, and therefore testing dry running the program through. It's called white box testing. Check values, complete the test tables, and it says 7 should pass, and should it work properly, and so on. So that's for one of your or two of your different programs that you've worked on, but you will have done a few of those by now, working through these make activities.